Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
And Steven proposed, and things between us got so much better. But the thing that still bothers me is that Steven is taking such a long time to prepare all the documents to get married, and I really want to go to Russia.
All right, so we're learning two things. One, that for a few weeks, because we always have to remember that we only see these little snippets, and so we've had 3 weeks of apparently no conflict, no problems, and bonding post the proposal. So it's just, just keep that in mind. And she's also saying that Steven is taking some time to get the paperwork done. Okay. We also learning that Alina likes cats, as I do too. Whenever I go to other countries, there's a fair amount of stray cats, and like in Greece, Santorini, actually, there were all these cats everywhere, and I loved it. A lot of people seem to think they're kind of like just a step up from rats or raccoons or something, and not a lot of people really partook in the cuteness, if you will, but I did. So Alina and I are similar in that way.
Hello! Meow. My best friends in Turkey are cats. I love cats. Мы даже дали им имена. Yeah. This is Cucumber. Mr. Cucumber.
Now, I don't know why you'd name him Cucumber. He's orange, but what are you going to do? I will say I haven't done that, but I feel like I'm learning. I should, because that's, you got to differentiate. Like when I was in Santorini for a few days, there were some regulars that I would visit there was one right out. We were in those, me and the pod wife were in one of those cliff houses. Just if you're not aware, go Santorini Cliff House. Just Google that. I mean, it's a magical place. If you've, highly recommend, by the way, if you can ever make it out there. And a lot of cats. And so while we were on this cliff house, there was this cat that was just hanging out on the stairs, and I would visit with him every day.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. I'm sorry, Cucumber. Wow. Yeah, so I miss home. I really want to go to Russia, and I can't wait to get married, to finally be able to apply for Russian visa for Steven.
Okay, I don't know if I knew that detail. Of course, this is the other way, so Steven's going to move to Russia. Interesting. I don't know why I guess I didn't know what they were going to do, but of course, again, this is the other way. So that's interesting. Russia, he's going to live in Russia. I mean, he seems to speak the language pretty well, so maybe he'll fit in well. We have to wonder what's going to happen with this couple, right? Because Steven, so I was talking with the pod wife earlier today. We were at breakfast and talking about 90 Day Fiancé, and it just occurred to me that there's a lot of people on the show. I can only think of a few that were men, but I think there were women like this too, that they almost seemingly have a compulsion regarding flirting online, even when so there's a possibility that Steven really does want to be with Alina and really loves her and wants to spend the rest of his life with her, and isn't trying to trick her, doesn't really want to cheat on her, that kind of thing. And yet it seems that he's flirting with other women online, Masha being one, but we just have to imagine there had to have been more, right? And so now last week we saw a text, back and forth with what he said was a friend, and it looked mildly flirty, but he was saying, no, that's just us being friends, which, I could imagine, like saying to a friend, hey, I'm gonna come over there, or hey, come on over here, spend the night. I say that to friends of any gender if they were friends. I wouldn't say that now, but in my younger days I would have, for sure. Anyway, point is that we've seen some people on the show, like Colt, seem to have gone through this phase where he, even while in a relationship, but maybe particularly when they're going through difficulties in a relationship, maybe that's something to think about, but maybe even not when the relationship is fine, they seem to be flirting a lot online with other women on social media. Some, like for Steven, it seems like it's more just flirty talk and not like, D pics, that kind of thing. For Colt, it was D pics. Apparently it escalated to that in his flirtations online while he was in a relationship with Jess, I believe. Anyway, and it got me thinking, because I don't know if I've ran across that often. And I wondered what it was. I don't know for Stephen or for Colt or who, other people that we've seen do this. But it does provide us, some data to speculate on that. For some people, and I did think about some people in my personal life who engage in similar behavior, and I know those people much better than I do people on the show. But the hypothesis that I've had for this kind of behavior is that we all want attention. We all want to feel worthy. We all want to feel like people like us. We all want to feel, potentially attractive to the people we're oriented towards. And if we don't get enough of it, or we're having a particularly hard day with our self-esteem, or we have a lot of traumas that make us feel perpetually like we're not good enough, we might seek various different venues compulsively and self-destructively to bolster our self-esteem, including flirting online when we're actually not actually interested in starting a relationship with someone. Think about all y'all out there. Just imagine whether you're in a relationship or not, and someone just contacts you because they saw you on the train, or they saw a picture of you online, and they're just like, or they read a post, and they contact you, and they're just, whether you're in a relationship or not, they just contact you and they just say, you are amazing, and I want to get to know you better. And you're beautiful, you're smart, you're funny, you're interesting. And now if you're in a relationship, you're like, I'm in a relationship, no thank you. If you're not in a relationship, then, maybe you consider, discussing something with them. But it makes you feel good, right? Not everyone, depending on our traumas, but it's something that I think we can all relate to. But if we're getting our needs met in functional ways, then we won't need that in a self-destructive way. If you're dating and you're single, then, you might do that, right? But if you're in a relationship and currently trying to marry someone, Alina, and you're flirting, then you have to wonder, why would you be self-destructive? Is it because you lack so much self-esteem that you are in this constant effort to build self-esteem in as many ways as you can possible? And maybe if you're particularly good at social media flirting and look in the right countries, maybe, I don't know, you can perhaps get a lot of responses. If you've ever done Tinder or these kinds of things before, depending on your experience and depending on how photogenic you are, there are you can go into a zone where you're just getting a ton of attention and a ton of affirmation, a ton of people just being like, oh my God, I want to meet you. Oh my God, and it can feel, it gets the blood going, it's exciting. It's fun. It's interesting. It's flirty. It's, it has all the potential, it's a lot of energy around it. And so you could imagine the Colts and the Stevens of the world who are probably relationally traumatized to the point where they are in a constant need of some affirmation that they're good enough, that they're gonna go where they found a receptive audience to fulfill their self-esteem needs. And so, is that what's happening with Stephen? I don't know, but otherwise, why would he be doing that? Okay, so the other possibility, which is I think what a lot of people believe, which I don't have any evidence for, is that he's a psychopath and doesn't have any feelings and doesn't care about Alina and is just manipulating her. I see people commenting that he is, he got gifts for her just so he could suck her in and trick her. It's possible, but I don't know. We don't have enough data I don't have enough data to be able to say either way. But if I was to take a guess, I would say it's the former more likely than the latter.
But if we don't start the process and marry as soon as possible, our visa will run out and we will have to be separated.
Why is that a problem? Give it some more time. You've had some tough times here in Turkey. So she's saying, if we don't get married soon, then we'll have to go our separate ways. What's wrong with that? You know, give it another couple of years. Like, why do you have to get married right now? I mean, up until this point, you know, they had 2 weeks in person and then all this difficulty that she didn't even know about while they were separated. And they've had what, like a couple months at the most at this point? Like, you know, give it a few more years. So I guess I'm kind of hoping that the paperwork doesn't go through for their sake.
One, two, three. I'm almost out of cards, baby. Oh, see, thank you.
No.
I don't think I've ever seen other people play this game. I think they're playing, what did we call this game? Speed? I think we just called it Speed growing up. My sister, I thought she invented this game. That's absurd. But yeah, I love that game. It's a fun game. I think that's what they're playing.
And still, we didn't prepare all the documents and get married here and apply for a visa. Now we have 1 month on our visas.
Are you nervous about it?
Of course, are you not nervous?
They have 1 month on their visas in Turkey, and they don't have their process ironed out for the way. I can't imagine that that's going to happen. I mean, if I've learned one thing on this from watching this show is that if you're just starting the process, 1 month is not enough time. But who knows?
Are you ready to get married now?
I am ready. The truth is, if it was up to me and the circumstances were different where we weren't limited by time to get married, I would have preferred, after the proposal, to not rush into a marriage.
Yeah, good. I mean, you still can. You don't have to rush. You have a lot of years ahead of you. So maybe say, well, you know, this trip to Turkey was a engagement trip, and then next time it'll be the marriage trip, or I don't know. So Alina seems hell-bent on getting married right now, which is interesting. And I guess we've seen this from other people in the past too. Is it that she believes she's going to lose him? Is it that she believes that's what fairy tales, you know, is that what happens in a fairy tale? There's, you know, in fairy tales, there's no ambiguity. There's no wait time, you know. Beauty and the Beast, they don't think, you know what, we've been through a lot. Let's take a break. Let's give it 6 months and see what happens, and then we'll ride off into the sunset. No, it's always like, you know, right away. That's how the fairy tales happen.
But Alina and I still have a lot of things to talk about. You know how much I love you, and something that you know is really important for me is that the church will be an active part of our lives.
So good, not good that he's saying that, but well, good that he's bringing it up. You know, so often we've seen on the show where people will avoid these conversations until there's a clash. You know, they're about to get married and he's like, so we're going to do a Mormon wedding, right? And she's like, what? No, we're going to do a you know, Russian Orthodox Christian wedding. So he's bringing it up. This is great. You know, I know a lot of people hate him, but I want to point out behavior that is functional when I see it, and this is great. Now, how will they navigate this conversation? Because we don't want him to pressure her, right? We don't want him to overpower her, or bulldoze her, or bully her. And she has every right to say, no, I'm not into Mormon religion. And tell you the truth, I want our family and I want you to be my religion. You know, she has equal rights here, of course. But we do know that up until this point, it seems as though they have already established that she will convert. You know, the gift of the Mormon book, she was very elated about that. Other kinds of, you know, discussions around coffee and alcohol seem to exhibit that at least they had a tentative agreement that she would try to at least live by the Mormon, or at least his version of the Mormon ideas, and convert eventually. But anyway, so let's see how it's not that he is bringing up this. It's always, for me, how they talk, how they assert themselves, how they listen, how they take care of each other in the process. Let's find out.
And I'm worried that, right now you say you want to be baptized, but after we get married, after we move to Russia, that once you're back home, that you won't want to be baptized anymore.
Good. So he's talking about his worries instead of accusing her of anything. He's speaking from an I statement, a differentiated statement. I'm worried that this is going to happen. And he is asking her. Now, I don't think Alina has exhibited enough for me to believe that she knows what she wants at this point. Who knows? I mean, I see a lot of people talking about Alina like she's a child, and she's very close to a child. She's 20 years old. She's an adult, and even, teenagers have the right to make choices about their life. But so it's like, where's that line? How do we see Alina? Do we see her as a naive child that needs to grow up before she's ever given the chance to make these kinds of choices? Or do we see her as someone who just is in love with someone that you wouldn't fall in love with? Like when Michael falls in love with Angela, and you're like, I wouldn't fall in love with Angela. Do you look at Michael and say, well, he's too young, or he's naive? You're just like, well, I don't know what Michael sees in Angela, but he loves her. He wants to be with her. So it's interesting the way people approach things differently. And I think a lot of people approach Alina because she kind of presents young, that that's the only reason why she likes Stephen. Now, it could be, all of us, I think I said this before, when we think back on our early life, can identify partners that we were with where we're like, why in the world was I with that person? I was in love with that person, and what was I thinking? So is Alina in that situation? I think a lot of people would argue that she is. But anyway, so he's differentiatedly saying, I'm worried that this is going to happen. So that's it. That's good communication. Because the flip side is to say, you haven't been reading your Mormon book very much, or you better get baptized when, instead he's just like, I'm worried, this is very important to me. And she can, so I guess there's two things that I'm looking at. Is one, just general communication and differentiated discussions, knowing yourself, this kind of, but two, knowing yourself, does she know what she wants? Is she aware of who she is? For her, because I don't know if a lot of us, because let's say right now she's like, no, I'm fully planning on getting baptized. I'm fully planning on converting to Mormonism. Is that a word, Mormonism? Do we trust that Alina has the capacity to make that choice? On one hand, I think that it's rational to look at her age and her persona, her demeanor, and wonder if in 10 or 15 years she'll look back at her 20-year-old self and regret things. On the other hand, I don't want to be ageist and just say that because she's 20, she can't make her own choices in life and she has no idea what she's talking about, which is an absolutely ageist position. But anyway, so I'm wondering about communication. I'm also wondering, are we going to get, and I think this is maybe the main thing I'm looking for, is are we going to get indication about how differentiated and mature, I said mature funny, Alina is? Let's watch.
And it would be comforting for me to hear a promise from you.
Wait, you think that now I say that I want to be baptized just because I want to get married?
Okay, so that took a turn. He says, it would make me more comfortable if I got a promise from you. If I were there, I would say, I get that, that would reassure you. But what's your end goal here? Is your end goal to sort of coerce her, is a strong word, but use use leverage to get her to become baptized? And I wonder what that means, to be baptized. Is that like, Is he just saying, because for some people are like this, is he just saying, look, I don't need you to be Mormon, but I do need you to be baptized in my religion, because for us to be in a viable marriage and to live forever in the afterlife, you have to become baptized. It's okay if you stray from, if you drink coffee, but you have to be baptized. It's just like bottom line. It's like all bets are off if you don't get baptized. Is he saying that, or is he saying, that's step one in you being a fully fledged Mormon, or is it something in between? But anyway, so he's saying, I need a promise from you. I would have said, like, that's controlling. You just want to say, as he did in the beginning, I'm worried. And then I would ask him, what are you worried about? What's the worry there? Because if it's like, well, I'm worried she's not going to get baptized, I'd be like, well, tell me more. And I'd be like, well, I'm worried that she's not going to be Mormon. And I'd say, well, tell me more. Well, I'm worried that if she's not Mormon, or if she doesn't get baptized, then it invalidates our marriage, and it would invalidate my status in how I understand my religion, or something like that. And then it's okay, you're talking about it. And Alina, how do you feel about that? And then, how do you feel about his worries? What do you think about that? Forget about what you want to do with it. We'll get to there later, but do you understand his worries? Now, Alina, what do you want to do? What's core to you? But she kind of brings up a good point now, which is like, wait, so you're saying that, well, let's rewind that bit, because I think this is an important bit.
Now I say that I want to be baptized just because I want to get married.
A lot of people have told me to be worried about that. And
So
it's not that I'm
why?
listening to them, it's just that it is a possibility.
So I'm a little confused. He's saying that he's hearing from other people that unless he gets a promise from her of baptism, which is that like a code word for conversion? I don't, or is it just the baptism? Because certainly just being baptized is, in my estimation, a much lower hurdle to jump over than becoming a fully fledged practicing Mormon. But anyway, so he's saying, I'm hearing from other people that unless I get a promise from you that you could sort of do a bait and switch on me and marry me and then not get baptized, even though you said you would get baptized. So I think Alina right now is hurt and then angry that she's being accused of being deceptive, which he does. So he's accusing her. This is what we call projection, is accusing someone else of something that you don't like about yourself.
Isn't doing baptisms in Turkey at all. So we have no other choice to get married first and then baptize Alina once we get to Russia. She could still say no, including after the marriage. And that would change everything, because I couldn't see myself being with someone who wouldn't support me in the church.
Okay, that's an interesting way of putting it. I don't want to be married to someone who doesn't support me. Obviously I don't know the Mormon sort of dogma, and I certainly don't know his version of it. People will comment below and say, Steve is not really representing the preferred or mainstream or my version of Mormonism. Is Mormonism a word? Anyway, so for Stephen, he's saying that I don't want to marry someone who's not supportive. And if she gets baptized, then it's sort of like a binary thing. It's like if she gets married, then she supports my being Mormon. If she's not baptized, then she doesn't. So if I were there as a therapist, I'd really drilled it. What do you mean by that? Do I have this right? Because it's incredibly important. It's incredibly important that they know what they want and that they communicate it to each other and that they work this out. Very important. So many couples do not have this conversation. I'm glad they're having it, but I'm a little worried that he is either being confusing or doesn't really know what he wants, or I don't know. Let's see how they manage this.
If you are sincere, like, what's the big deal about promising?
I already gave you a lot of promises.
And now I feel like you're upset at me because I asked you this.
Of course I'm upset, because it feels like you don't trust me.
Right. So that's what I thought, is that she feels like you don't trust me. It's like you're asking me to promise again, as if, my previous promises or statements that I would do X, Y, and Z are invalid. You seem to have this idea that I would renege on this promise, this agreement, which if you're Alina, you'd be saying, that's something you do. That's not something I've never done that to you. I've followed through in every single thing I've said to you. And so for you to have this attitude, like you need, and even the way he's phrasing it, and this points to maybe a family issue, because the way he's coming across, it was maybe learned on some level, but the way he's coming across is like, hey, I just want, because it'd be fine if he was like, hey, I'm really worried because, we were going to do baptism before getting married. Now we have to do it after. I'm worried that you're going to change your mind. I don't have any reason to believe that, but if you could just reassure me again, just for my sake, that you're really going to do it. I don't want you to make me think like I don't want you to think that I don't trust you, but I'm just really kind of worried. Can you just reassure me again? That'd be okay. But the way he's going about it is, I need a promise, because that is like a contract and I'm going to hold you to it. That's not a way to have a marriage, right? Like I don't go to my wife and say, okay, I need you to promise me that you're not going to divorce me, or you're not going to cheat on me. And, okay. And if you promise me, I'm going to hold you to that. It's like this parental model of relationships, right? You would hope that you could ask your spouse, hey, it just means so much to me that you are baptized, and your spouse says, okay, I'll do that for you. I want to do that for you. And you could just trust that connection will motivate the behavior, The other thing is, it's like, well, what if she does change her mind? She can't change her mind?
Since we've been engaged, I really want to be happy and stop our arguments. But when he doubts my commitment to get baptized, it's very frustrating, because if any one of us wouldn't be ready to trust anything, it should be me.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. If anyone should question someone's integrity and what, if they're going to follow through on their promises, it should be Alina questioning him.
Like, I want to be baptized even when we get married and move to Russia.
Okay, and do you still want to sign that piece of paper?
So she is, I think, doing a really good thing, and if that's what she wants. So we still don't really know. Does she really want that? Or is she just doing that? Or will she regret it later on? I don't know. But she's saying affirmatively, I'm not, doing it out of coercion. I want to get baptized. So that's something that you can trust me about. And then he says, do you want to sign that paper? He was joking the first time, or at least he acted like he was joking the first time. Was he joking?
Okay, come here. I know you're serious. I know you're so serious.
Not funny at all.
Okay, I was just being playful, okay?
So I will say, this was a good conversation. He made a mistake by being distrustful. I think he might have been projecting his own qualities into her, and she responded, I think appropriately, by saying, hey, it seems like you don't really trust me. That's not very fair. And then she says, look, I do want to get baptized, so you can trust me on that. And then he received that well. So of the conversations we've seen on the show, I think it was a pretty good one.
Okay. I wasn't serious about the paper.
All right, well, that is it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.